TalkNShop Network makes no apologies for what you're about to hear. The host might, though. It's the $9 Podcast with Drewski. Because moderating for pro wrestling's good brothers wasn't enough work. Talking wrestling and more. Weekly on all major podcast networks.
And we're back with another edition of the $9 Podcast with Drewski. It's Drewski once again. Moderator, cat wrangler, pretty much disciplinarian of the Falcon's Nest, which is the dedicated chat of the Patreon. And it's episode 53 altogether. Going from numbering from the actual Patreon itself. I try and stay on top, try and stay consistent on this on a weekly basis, and try to set a good example for the rest of the people on the TalkNShop Network. And full disclosure, I was the first podcast to debut on the Patreon, and currently I'm the one that's getting the least amount of run in the TalkNShop Network, because I have not been properly introduced to the network itself, and one could say it's a real good rib on the part of Machine Gun and Gallows to just string me along, string this along, see how far this goes. But yeah, again, patience is a virtue. It's like, my time will come. It's just just keep plowing ahead, and onward and upward. Speaking of onward and upward. The boys, Machine Gun and Carl, decided to get actually serious about, no pun intended, about getting the whole legitimate podcast studio put together. And they're currently in the process of building one in the basement of one Luke Doc Gallows. And they did their first trial run with the new studio this past week, and it was met with like a little, as first ventures go. There's going to be bugs. There's going to be technical difficulties. It wouldn't be a proper talking shop without some sort of technical difficulties. It's nothing that can't be fixed over months. They will dial it in. They will dial it in eventually, and it's an interesting setup they have going on. And then got like rotating group of guests, rotating group of hosts depending on who's in town. Apparently, the Blade is been made. Pepper Parks has eventually been made official co-host of the TalkNShop, which is kind of funny, and it's kind of mind blowing to both me and Pepper, because we're both like longtime fans, right? And now we're in the position. Now we're both in like the positions we're in, like me running herd over the Patreon, and Pepper basically laughing at everything boys say, and getting that tan like all sweet, all proper. We shall see. The boys did talk about. There was talks with Sirius about bringing the TalkNShop Network as a whole over to the 24/7 Wrestling Nation. Yeah, that's before people from Stamford, Connecticut decided to go, hey, what's big? It'd be cool. WWE Radio. Here's a whole lot of cash. And money talks. Money talks. Funny thing about it's first initial rumblings of the WWE radio. It's like fits and starts. It's like Busted Open is now basically become like a propaganda show more or less for WWE. And the only good thing WWE radio has actually done so far apparently is a radio play-by-play of PLEs. You know, they tested that out on the last pay-per-view of like Booker T on doing radio commentary, and it apparently went over really well. It's something they'll probably, you know, get a bunch of focus groups behind, because, you know, that's a corporate thing. Focus groups. How can we market this? How can we merchandise it? And they'll drive it into the ground, kind of like what they're doing at Danhausen. But that's a topic for another day. It's funny that Nick Khan's trying to spin, you know, the accusations of this new radio venture being a propaganda arm by, you know, coming out and telling the Busted Open guys, "Hey, you're welcome to criticize me." It's like nothing, you know, no, we're you know, we're open to criticism. Yeah. No, they're not. They're open to criticism to a point. You know, too much history in that company to think otherwise. And yeah, you know, and you know, history. Another thing about history repeating itself is the WWE counter programming AEW stuff, or, you know, counter programming their competition, happening to have scheduled pay-per-views the same day their competition has a big-time pay-per-view, trying to siphon away any, you know, any viewership they can. You know, it's you know, it's 101, and, you know, it's on page 1 of the Vince McMahon playbook. You know, he's been doing that. He was doing that stuff in the territory, you know, back in the territories. It worked then. They think it works now, but it's not the 80s anymore. It's the 21st century. And people, you know, some people do learn from history, but, you know, currently WWE is trying to repeat history, and they're trying to, and they don't understand why it's not working this time, because we've seen it coming. And yeah, it's starting to affect the bottom line of it a little bit. There's some rumblings going on, like Triple H's number 2 guy was like senior vice president of creative or whatever, guy basically left a couple months ago, but just became public now. The timing of that was interesting. And yeah, you have like we're getting close to really, you know, the WWE releasing their quarterly reports as normal. When they do that, it's like talent cutting time, budget cutting time. You know, after the last wave of cuts, you know, you pass their 90 days. You know, here comes a fresh crop coming. You know, and rumors will be, you know, flying, and it's, you know, they can you know, keep going to the well with storylines, you know, with business practices and whatever, but it comes a time where it's like, I'll give you where it's diminishing returns, really. Yeah, I'm going to take, for example, what happened on SmackDown. It's like the long-awaited promo duel between Kevin Owens and CM Punk. It was great. You know, it's great. It's the 5th time I've heard this. I've heard this version of the promo. You know, I've heard it in the AEW a couple times. I heard it with Hangman. I heard it with Eddie. I've heard it with Seth. Now I'm hearing it with KO and Sammy. It's like it's like Punk's only seems like CM Punk only wants to do like one storyline. He's gonna keep doing it and keep doing it until he finally gets the storyline he wants. Yeah, again, it's like pounding in it. It's like hammering a storyline into shape. Basically, it's like it's you take a look around. You see AAA. AAA is about to do like a tournament where winner is a luchador who gets the honor of being smoked by Roman Reigns at a AAA pay-per-view. And the way the bracket's set up, it's in WWE fashion, it's like you don't even need to watch the tournament because you know who's going to be in the final. It's so obvious. It's incredibly obvious. It's going to be Lucha Brother versus Lucha Brother. It's going to be Penta versus Phoenix. The winner takes on Roman. Roman actually working AAA is also a counter-programming method because it's happening. The AAA show is happening the same day as an AEW pay-per-view. It's like it's AAA. Why do it reeks of desperation when you're bringing in. It's basically all hands on deck. You don't trust the people that are there on the roster. You have to bring in. You have to bring in CM Punk and Roman Reigns for a AAA show to pop and try and put a dent on AEW's pay-per-view numbers, which is first off, AEW is not going to be hurting on pay-per-views because they've built up enough equity with their pay-per-views. It's like it's going to blow up in their. It's yet another time WWE is going to. It's going to blow up in their face spectacularly, and I cannot wait for it to happen. And, say, "I told you so. I told you so. I told you so." And let's shift the gears a little bit because what the hell's going on in TNA? It's like every time I look up, it's like a knockout's leaving. I think they're down to at this point. They're down to they only have like 2 tag teams, and it's like the Ash by Elegance team and Demon X Bunny, Cherry Bomb / Allie and Rosemary, and I think they finally figured it out, because they're supposedly bringing in more knockouts talent. They have to build up that roster. The roster was thin as it is, but now it's back. Signing Gabby Forza, known as Nomi, on the Indies. She's very good at what she does. She's entertaining as hell. And it'll be interesting to see who's next. There was like a promo, a cryptic promo, like Rosemary being missing and Allie finding tarot cards. And people seems like it's the return of Sue Young, but I believe it's the debut of Zelina Vega and Tommy End. Yes, I said Tommy End. Tommy, the former Aleister and former Aleister / Malachi Black has shaved his head and become reverted back to his indie name of Tommy End. When he was, if you aren't familiar with Tommy End in the Indies, he was something, right? You think that his gimmick was, out, over the top then, in AEW and WWE? No. He was part of a tag team called the Sumerian Death Squad. And you look up their matches. It's like serious vibes. Hopefully, he's going to be incorporating more of his more of his kickboxing background and maybe toning down the spooky. Although TNA has the market cornered on spooky, unlike a lot of the other, U.S. promotions, TNA has it sort of has it on lock. With the Hardys and the Righteous, and there's actually a tease of the Righteous and the Wyatt Six, like joining forces. I mean, the Hardys and the Wyatt Six joining forces, and just a tease. There's still little slivers of like, maybe they might know what they're doing, but it's gonna take a long time for them to engineer more goodwill. And again, because after like the past 8 and 9 months, well, it's not the first time this has happened with TNA, and definitely will not be the least. Yeah. So let's talk about what hardly anybody's talking about these days. It's like New Japan G1. The G1's going on right now, everyone. Remember years past the G1, people, it was like a happening, the G1. Now you don't really hear as much. It's because no Kenny, no Osprey, but there's still great matches going on. It's like Yoda Tsuji is apparently having it's a breakout star of the tournament. He's actually figured things out. He's starting to dial in his overall skill set. And Hanari and Gabe Kidd, basically beat the crap out of each other for 20 plus minutes. It's like no subtleties, like sledgehammers. It was it was a 21st Century Haas match. And I can see why who gave it like a 5, 5 stars. The vaunted 5-star review, because it's something different. When you got it's something, it stuck out in the tournament because probably everybody else was like flying around. But at the end of the day, right now, the story is still Konosuke Takeshita. Right now, he's at the top of his block. He just lost his first match to Hiromu Takahashi, who's going to be leaving soon to go to WWE. But it's like it's go away tournament. And when Takeshita comes back just in time for Continental Classic season, all bets are off, because he's going to make a beeline for Kyle Fletcher, or whoever's holding that title, and the national title or international title, well, you name it. He's coming after somebody. Okada, yeah, because he'll be back in time for All In, and then they can do the quick run up to the Okada, Takeshita, Fletcher 3-way dance, which will be a very strong, what's looking to be a very strong card. That could be the show stealer, because Kyle Fletcher's on a run the past couple months where he's seriously like in the top 3, at least the top 3 wrestler. If he's not in the top 3 wrestler of the year voting, something is malpractice. He's insane right now. You know what else was insane? It's like the AEW CMLL partnership right now. Like for the past week, it's basically AEW is pretty much a lot of the heavy hitters at AEW have been in Arena, Mexico. Working and working and working. Working shows, working Cyberneticos, the whole experience. and they're being, you know, they're being, welcomed with open arms by the CMLL faithful, which is great. And they had like the AAW versus CMLL pay-per-view, not actually show before Grand Slam Mexico, and it's, it's like there was some head-to-head matches, and surprisingly CMLL came out, well, surprisingly enough, CMLL came out ahead 5-2 in terms of the matches. Just unlike, which, as it should be, because they had the home court advantage. I mean, the Cathedral, right? The Wrestling Cathedral. It's like you saw Grand Slam Mexico. You understand. You understand how, the passion of that crowd, right? The whole vibe. You can just see that and realize that's the reason why that place has been sold out pretty much every week this year. 16,500 strong. Always there, always dedicated, and the talent is like appreciates it. The CMLL's talent's like out of its mind right now. It's best it's been in at least 10, 15 years. They have like young kids, young guys coming up, like Mascara Dorada, and you see like guys like El Clone getting work, and Commander getting over, and Bandito getting over, and Bandito winning the trios titles with Brody King, and a vacation and a side questing Hangman Adam Page. It's a very interesting development. To see where it goes from here, because again, it sets up a lot of potential stuff, because over like on Ring of Honor, apparently the Dark Order is reformed, or is in the process of reforming, which because apparently Preston Vance is back with Evil Uno and Reynolds and Silver. He's going to go back to being number 10. And Alan Angels has been working Ring of Honor. And Anna Jay is, sort of needs a direction after like Ty J is, pretty much broken up. And, Cole Cabana's still around. And you got Hangman on the periphery, just in case. Plus you have like you have certain free agents that could come in. So you could see some of the White Six come in and bolster the Dark Order. Maybe because of Brody Lee, the Brody Lee effect. The Brody Lee speaking of Brody Lee, it's like Brody Lee Jr. ain't that far away from 18, folks. It's not that far away. Believe he just turned 15, and he's starting to get his growth spurt, and he's growing like a weed. He's been training like an assassin. He's been training like an assassin in the Heart Dungeon for the past couple of years, right? If he was a Japanese, you wonder, would they pull the trigger now, or wait till he turns 18? Because he did work for the company when he was 10, but I think it depends. If they have a good enough storyline, good enough direction, they feel comfortable with it, will they jump for it? And we'll see. Was back to Grand Slam for a bit. It's like Kyle Fletcher and Speedball Mike Bailey, best of 7. If any two guys on the roster deserved to do a best of 7 for a belt, it's them. It's like every time they touch, every time they get in the ring against each other, it is magic. It's like certain combinations. Basically, when you see them. It's like it's like Sean and Brett, and it's Austin and Rock. That kind of KO and Sami Zayn. That kind of connection is very rare and should be cultivated. Again, the future is bright for that company. They keep adding tournaments too, which is great. It's like the Continental Tournament. It was the Continental Cup tournament, which is basically their version of the New Japan Cup. It's like 16 guys, single elimination, winner go home. No Continental Classic rules. No seconds, no interference. No time limit. There has to be a winner. It does remind me a bit of like the PWG Bola tournaments in terms of like just the matchups. On the whole reseeding after the first 2 rounds is very interesting, because then it makes it not so obvious who's going to be in the final, but you got a pretty good idea who's going to be in the final. You look at the card and you think, okay, what would be the best storyline? Well, the best storyline is obviously Mox versus Ospreay. No, not Mox versus. Well, Mox in the final. Mox would have to go through a murderer's row. If it sets up correctly, you'd have to go through Kyle O'Reilly, who's his kryptonite. Eddie Kingston, which is a match that's been years in the making, right? And the final could be very emotional. It could be. There's a whole lot of doubt. It's like Roddy versus Kyle O'Reilly in the first round. But what got me was like Shibata versus Nigel McGuinness in the first round. Are you fucking kidding me? It's like if you told like a Ring of Honor and New Japan stalwart about super fan about the potential that sort of matchup about 5-10 years ago, you would have said you were insane. It's the sort of matchup you would do like on a fan in the E-Fed. Definitely, or like in a video game. Like you never thought you would ever see that sort of a matchup. Not in your goddamn life. The chance of Mox versus Nigel in the final is there because it's all in. It's Wembley. It's the home court advantage for Nigel. It was an intriguing as hell match, especially if Daniel Bryan got involved. Which, if Nigel makes it to the finals, I expect Daniel Bryan to be there on commentary for some reason, or something. And then you got like sort of the field is starting to set up for the Casino Gauntlet. MJF's decided to do like the Real World Championship type thing, when they basically stole the Triple B, and declared himself like the number. He was going to wrestle for like be the number 2 entrant in the Casino Gauntlet, and he's targeting Andrade. So it would probably be Andrade versus MJF. But here's the funny thing. It's like, that stipulation that Hangman couldn't challenge for MJF's, the AEW championship. Didn't say anything about the Triple B. Just putting it out there. There's a loophole that can be exploited if they want to. But it would be easy to do. But yeah, and they keep adding, people like Jay White. Yeah, Jay White's going to get a good run in the tournament because he needs it, because people need to remember what an absolute badass Jay is in the ring, because he wrestles a counter wrestling style, which is like so diametrically opposed to like a lot of the guys they have. It'll be interesting to see. You have like rumblings of that Samoa Joe might actually be at Wembley, because he came out a couple days ago and said that production on the Twisted Metal Season 2 is about to wrap up soon, very soon. So he might be there. Hell, he might be in Vegas this week, because because of his tweets that he'd say it would be a roll of the dice. Very subtle. Very subtle. Joe coming out of nowhere and interrupting MJF on Dynamite would be entertaining as hell. Got that? You got the news that Buddy Matthews finally got cleared after his horrific ankle injury. It's like, I wouldn't wish that kind of injury on anyone. It's a freak thing, but freak things happen all the time in wrestling. It's over the most innocuous things. Like, look at Adam Cole. Look at Pac. Pac broke his ankle like doing a baseball slide into a ring like years ago. It's like, it doesn't take much. I'm sure things are going to really ramp up for the road to All In, like in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be, you think they're going like 100 miles an hour the past 3 weeks, with the run of shows they've been on. It's like Detroit and Arena, Mexico, back to back. It's like two of the most insane crowds that the AEW's ever had. And the odds of Vegas matching those, I don't think so, because Vegas, there was a bit of diminishing returns for Vegas. Vegas can run hot and cold. We'll see when they start announcing card for Dynamite. And we shall tune in for like more updates, I guess. It's like a metal recommendation a week. Once again, the new Anthrax just came out with a new single called Everyone's Got a Plan. Everybody's got a plan. And what's interesting about the material in their new album so far. They put out 3 songs. Every one of them is hits like a different era of their history. It's like this newest ones could have easily ended up like on Sound of White Noise. Easily, because it sounds like something that were written for John Bush. You can actually close your eyes and you hear John Bush actually singing the song and probably doing it justice. And it's good that they took the time. They took the time to do it right. But they didn't really have that much of a choice, because it's like the recording got was like start because Charlie Benante had to work it around, doing gigs with Pantera and so forth. And I'm interested to see the vibe of the rest of the album. It's a good start compared to some of the Anthrax albums in the past, where it's like, no. It's like they do take chances. They're not afraid to take chances. They don't really sit on laurels that much. But plus, Scott Ian's guitar tone on this album so far, it's like he went back to the well. It's almost like Alex Periolis is like producing his guitar tones again. If you know, you know, and it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here early because I've been doing this getting off of work, and I'm sleepy boy. So you go to oldglory.com, use the promo code Drewski, get 15% off of your total purchase. Yeah. This train wreck is available worldwide on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and someday on the TalkNShop Network. Fingers crossed on that one. Merch selling. Yes, I still have merch. It's like $9podcast.dashery.com. Email me, tell me I'm insane. It's a $9podcast@yahoo.com. The YouTube channel is still youtube.com/$9podcast. It'll still be up until, because there's a chance all my videos might end up integrating over to the TalkNShop has their own dedicated YouTube channel now, where it's basically all the shows on the network are actually migrating over there, so you can see like the videos. They haven't done that for me yet, but I look at it, it's coming. It'll be a deep dive for another day, so they say. And I'm going to go on a real deep dive, go to the Patreon, patreon.com/TalkNShop. We have we actually did the membership head count yesterday. There's about 793 people in the Falcon's Nest right now, which is very cool. Very cool. And the boys, Machine Gun and Gallows, appreciate it. That everybody's along for the ride, for their new ventures, because right now Machine Gun has also decided to start writing. He's doing daily journals now on the Patreon, where it's basically he writes whatever is on his mind. It could be, it's very free form, very stream of consciousness. He's also in the process of writing his autobiography, a wrestling autobiography. It's sort of like a wrestling podcast. I know there's thousands of them out there, but I could say that Machine Gun has a talent for it. It reminds me, his writing style reminds me of Mick Foley, and that's a good thing, because Mick's books are required reading, and eventually when the book does come out, it's going to be insane. So until next week, I shall see you.
Thanks for listening to the $9 Podcast. Support the show by going to the $9 Podcast or going to patreon.com/TalkNShop to dive headlong into the insanity. See you next week.